Good morning and welcome to the latest installment of our Campaign Commitment e-workshop series. I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. I will say we have a technical issue with connecting one of our guests that we're working on even as we speak. So we'll hope that Nasser Al-Khatani is able to connect with us very soon. In the meantime, just a little background. In 2013, the campaign launched the 100 Million Project, which is working with partners to build a movement among financial inclusion stakeholders to take specific, measurable, and time-bound actions towards the end of poverty through campaign commitments. And this is a platform by which we feature the work of those organizations. I just want to take a moment to say that today is actually the very day of our one-year anniversary of launching the Commitments e-workshop series, and this marks our 7th e-workshop. We've had in the past year featured 9 commitments on the platform and have hosted roughly 550 listeners. We're pleased to continue bringing you into direct contact with campaign commitment makers and their work. So I'd like to say, too, a special thank you to 2 communications partners we have today. Though our discussion will be in English, Portal Microfinanzas is live with us, tweeting the session in Spanish. As well, we are joined today by the Arabic Microfinance Gateway, who will be live tweeting about the discussion for our Arabic-speaking colleagues. Today we're co-hosting this e-workshop with Child and Youth Finance International as part of the event surrounding Global Money Week 2015. Representing CYFI are Jared Penner, who's Manager for Global Engagement and Evaluation, and Ignacio Bianco, the Banking and Financial Institution Coordinator. And we hope to also be joined very soon by Mr. Nasser Al-Khatani, who is the Executive Director of the Arab Gulf Program for Development, or AGFUND. Both organizations have launched campaign commitments, and we're very happy to have them with us today. To those who are joining us as listeners, I want to mention that we will be taking questions throughout the discussion today. If you'll look on the right side of your screen, you should see a box for questions and answers. We ask that you please submit your questions even as they come to you, all throughout the discussion. I will have colleagues on this side who will be receiving those questions and forwarding them to me. Be sure you do send your question to everyone so that everyone can see the questions in case they have a similar thought. We'll do our best to touch on as many of those questions as we can. So with that, I wanted to come to a point where I can share with you my screen so that we can take a look at a brief presentation. It's just under a 3-minute video about the commitment that Child and Youth Finance made. And if you, for whatever reason, cannot see the video, I will let you know that we do have that available on our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and search Microcredit Summit Campaign and look at our playlist, Why I Commit.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the campaign commitment that Child and Youth Finance announced first in 2013 and now relaunched with new benchmarks for 2014. We're making this together and we're very proud of that partnership that we're having with you.
It's true.
So I thought maybe you could tell us a little bit about what sort of we are committing to do together.
For CYFI, we have set as a goal for our Child and Youth Finance movement and the CYFI network of supporting organizations to reach 10 million children and youth through 50 microfinance service providers by the end of 2015, with a combination of child and youth-friendly banking products, as well as educational programs that kind of combine financial, social, and livelihoods education. We kind of call that economic citizenship education. So we really want to see these integrated services and really allow young people to develop their financial capability, their ability to sort of use financial services responsibly, manage their own personal finances, and understand the role of money in society and in their communities. But also, developing that sense of social and economic empowerment and social and economic responsibility, ultimately being the real building blocks of true economic citizens. We do, of course, see such an important role for government. It's financial authorities, central banks, ministries of finance, increasingly even ministries of education, really coordinating around sort of these economic citizenship efforts for young people at the national level. And I think increasingly, when you look at these national platforms that are being created, where they are trying to bring in representatives from the private sector and from civil society to really work with the government to work on these action plans, we need to see more microfinance institutions, microfinance associations in those platforms. We really do believe that the microfinance industry is such an important component of the CYFI network. And in terms of being really there at the front lines of reaching out to the young people living in poverty, who are really there at the front lines and providing those types of services that they need most. So I think this just made a lot of sense for us to really make this sort of joint commitment with the Microcredit campaign.
I want to thank you for your time today. This has been a great conversation, and I look forward to our continued partnership, not only on this commitment, but on future initiatives.
Okay, so I wanted to say thank you for taking a look at that. I understand that some folks had some difficulty hearing the video. I do want to remind you it is available on our YouTube channel, and so that's YouTube, search Microcredit Summit Campaign, and check out the playlist, Why I Commit. The video is about our commitment that the Microcredit Summit Campaign and Child and Youth Finance launched jointly just last year. And so I do want to mention that part of that is participating with Child and Youth Finance in the 2015 Global Money Week. So with that, I wanted to turn to Jared and just have you, Jared, explain a little bit about what Global Money Week is and why it's such a great partnership opportunity for our two campaigns.
Yeah, sure thing. Well, thank you very much for having us on this. And we're really happy to be able to do this during Global Money Week. Global Money Week is really taken off as an initiative through the Child and Youth Finance Network. It's really very much a global festival, I would say, to really promote financial inclusion, the importance of financial inclusion and financial literacy and economic citizenship for young people all over the world. And we've been very encouraged over the last couple of years to see the real growth and participation amongst a number of different stakeholders, particularly government authorities. And this year, we had over 50 governments, officially have child and youth finance initiatives and campaigns during the Global Money Week, which is excellent. A number of leading non-government organizations and other financial institutions also taking part in just a lot of games and activities, promoting financial literacy, having young people visit central banks and having lectures on the importance of saving and how they're earning money and what are they spending money on and what are they saving for. And we think that this is such an important part of the whole CYFI campaign and also our joint campaign with Microcredit Summit is because we really think that it helps to create a real global community around these commitments and around this issue and making young people feel like they really are a part of a real global movement in this area. And I think we've been very encouraged to see some of the connections that have been made and some of the real exciting activities that are happening. And I know Ignacio is going to share a couple of examples of where we've seen some financial institutions within the CYFI network really do some exciting stuff this week.
Great. Thank you very much, Jared. And hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're hearing us. Basically, Global Money Week, as Jared was saying, is a money awareness campaign and celebration that we do throughout the world. And the financial institutions are a key player in this celebration because, well, basically, they are the ones who can put their resources into the hands of the youth and the new generations. From the banking sector and the financial services providers that we have as part of our network, we counted over 120 commitments this year, and some of the most exciting activities that we are reporting right now are, savings campaign, where basically a bank offers for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or even a month we got easy ways for kids and youth to go and open their savings accounts. Another campaign that is very successful, as Jared was saying, is the bank visit, where basically banks, volunteers from the bank go to the schools and have financial lessons and financial lectures. Otherwise, they also invite the kids to the bank, so they actually get the lecture at the bank, and they also see in a practical way, well, how basic the financial system works, where the money comes from, what happens with their savings, so the kids also have an opportunity to take a look into the business. So I would say those are some of the most exciting activities happening. Some of the banks went really creative and had like theater plays happening in the street. They also have movies specially designed for financial awareness, and as well, the theme this year is Save Today, Save Tomorrow. So saving was the main component in the celebrations this year. Thank you.
Thanks, Jared and Ignacio. That really helps us kind of understand the context and the expansiveness of what it is we're involved in today. I wanted to get into some of the questions. We're talking today about including children and youth in your work to end extreme poverty. So I wanted to get kind of at some of the challenges and discussion about motivations there. I do want to mention, too, that we've got a couple of slides from Sci-Fi that if you ever want those called up, just let me know and I'll scroll right to those. First question I had for you is, in Sci-Fi's view, among your partners, what are some of the main challenges that microfinance institutions face in delivering financial services to you?
Well, I think, from our side, we really do, again, seeing the importance of both financial inclusion and sort of educational services. So being able to offer, realizing that young people do need a number of different types of support services for them to build their financial capability. And I think, I think we're...
Yes, this is Nasser connected, huh?
Okay. Great.
Sorry,
we got you.
I hear you. I just right now could talk to you guys. So sorry, I'm sorry. I'm hearing you. I hear you.
That's great, Nasser. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Sorry for that.
Go ahead, Jared. Thanks.
So we were just looking at the different services that are required to really build a broader sort of holistic package for financial capability for young people. So to be able to do this in a very cost-effective manner is probably one of the real challenges that we see from a lot of the partners in our network. It's often a sort of a new program line that the institutions have to launch, and sometimes it's very difficult to get that buy-in from some of the either in the board members or the senior management in these institutions to really invest in a product line that may not return some very immediate profits or resources to the institution. So I think that, of course, searching for this business case is always a bit elusive when it comes to financial services for youth. And I think just putting in the right returns from youth financial services in terms of the uptake of the different products, and then really the long-term usage and retaining these clients is always a bit of a challenge they face. It's one thing to open a number of youth savings accounts, but then ensuring that young people are actually using these accounts and that actually is having some impact on the savings behavior of young people. So we see a lot of challenges from our partners in these areas.
Thanks, Jared. And I think those of us from the microfinance community are probably pretty familiar with the issues of account dormancy and some of what you were describing. Wanted to add to that, in the face of these challenges, what are some of the more effective ways that you've seen of overcoming them, particularly in addressing financial services for children and youth?
Yeah, well, I think some of the ways in which we've seen people getting around some of the regulatory barriers. I mean, obviously, we really encourage savings products first for young people, and I think obviously if institutions can become registered deposit taking institutions, that certainly allows them to offer a wider spectrum of services to young people. I think really looking at marketing towards the wider household. So we're looking also at institutions who are able to sort of cross-sell other services to either the parents or the other family members of youth clients. That certainly helps to overcome some of the revenue challenges. When it comes to the creative use of technology, I think we've seen a few examples where just reaching out to some isolated rural communities, and where we've seen remote points of sale agents being used to open additional accounts, or looking at some of the mobile services options that really allow financial institutions to reach hard to isolated communities still with these important financial services.
Great, thanks. I wanted to turn to Nasser. Nasser, we're very glad that you were able to connect, and pleased that the technology allowed us to reach you as well. Speaking of technology, Jared, in a recent interview, Nasser, which our Arabic-speaking colleagues can access there on your website, you described 5 central ways in which AGFUND is supporting persons living in poverty. And just as an overview, I wanted to know if you wouldn't mind just briefly sharing with us what are those 5 strategies that AGFUND has.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I'm glad. Thank you very much for the Microcredit campaign and for the Child Financial to give me the opportunity for that. Actually, AGFUND, as all you know, created 1980 to support women and children in the developing country. The 5 areas we give a priority to help that people needed, which is early childhood development, preschool education particularly, empower women, civil society, as well as, of course, distant and open learning. And we even give completed by poverty alleviation through financial inclusion, because we believe in AGFUND. Any developing country will develop that 5 areas. They could move easily from being developing country to be developed. And this is what's happening for all the Arab region right now. Without developing these 5 areas, they cannot be even, moving toward all the problems they're facing. And since the inception, 88, AGFUND, financing 140,000 projects in 133 countries, because as you know, AGFUND is reflecting the vision of His Royal Highness Prince Talal bin Abdulaziz, which supports women and children without any discrimination, race, religion, so on. And this particularly, how can we help the developing country? And the age, of course, we help in, as you know, is children and women. Of course, when we help women, we give a priority for the young women. Yes.
Yes. And I was going to say, AGFUND sees its work with youth and children that you just mentioned as relatively close to the financial inclusion component, or the poverty alleviation component of that framework. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, as you remember, AGFUND all the time give microcredit, microfinance, and financial inclusion as a priority in their project. But to start in 1995, and particularly when you start in the 1997 campaign, AGFUND became part of it. And because of we've been working before 1997 with United Nations, NGOs, etc. But we find out after the goal of the campaign, it cannot be achieved through what's existing. So AGFUND come up with creating microfinance bank to do financial inclusion, to provide fully fledged services. Because as you know, some people think that poor people need loan or account. No, they need more than this. Poor people need microinsurance, they need education loan, they need education for improving the house, as well as loan to start businesses. So what we believe and what the microcredit campaign come with it, AGFUND reflect what we're doing to achieve them. Thanks God, since that time until now, we've been creating 9 banks in 9 Arab countries and 1 country in Africa, Sierra Leone. So now we open a bank in Yemen, Jordan, Syria, Bahrain, Lebanon, Sudan, Palestine, Sierra Leone, and last week, thanks God, we opened a bank in Mauritania.
That's tremendous. And I just jumping back to a slide that shows the campaign commitments. So AGFUND launched a campaign commitment, part of the very first set of campaign commitments in 2013. Just highlighting there that on that list are 3 banks, and you've already moved well beyond that. And congratulations on the recent launch of the bank in Mauritania, the most recent addition. And you know, I just want to say the campaign has enjoyed a long and fruitful collaboration with AGFUND, and part of that now continues with this opportunity for us to highlight some of the work that's going on with children and youth. So I wanted to just ask, as AGFUND is working with children and youth, in a discussion previously, you and I were talking about the logic behind the approach of AGFUND's work with that. And I just wanted to maybe provide an opportunity for you to discuss the connection between, say, children accessing savings accounts and then the relationship with parents that I think is very unique to the program that AGFUND is working with.
Yeah, you remember, all the time, we're always saying, even in microfinance, we need to create trust fund to do guarantee when people get a microfinance, MFIs, and so on. We took that idea and we start integrating the children into the saving account. So the good thing about it, the child starts having a saving account. You know, when the child have $10, that means her or his parents entitled of getting a loan for $50. So child brought the family to the financial system. You know, all the concept all the time, parents go and open account and then create an account for their child. So now AGFUND is starting to open account for a child, and parents never even have an account or any loan. So the child gives their parents access to the first loan of their life. That's their parents being included in the financial system. So this is something that we did it in Yemen. Now we have more than 45,000 saving a child. And by the way, making the saving, as I mentioned, last week we opened our bank in Mauritania. Just last week, we have 2,500 saving accounts. We haven't even distributed any loan because AGFUND starts with saving first. Because, as you know, some people, people need, just loan to start business. No, people need, access to finance to create saving account, to get, loan for education, for housing, and for business. I remember through that when we even start doing microfinance. Some of the people will give them loan to do business. Just if their child gets sick, or sometime the whole businesses collapse. So right now we make it a prerequisite, even before having them access to loan to start business, we make sure that they have micro insurance, because as you know now we started doing micro insurance in Jordan. We have now 65,000 women have access to micro insurance. It costs them 20 cents per day, 20 cents. That means $80.
Yeah.
That's women insured, including cancer, by the way. That's imagine this. And what we're working in it right now, we're starting to have those people access to micro insurance for less than $50. And we're planning to have 1 million within 5 years. Imagine if we achieve that, that will be a tremendous achievement. For youth, as you know, sometimes youth, people thinking, youth start business. No, youth even need education loan. So don't let them forget education. So we have that child, that youth, access to loan to study at the university, then micro insurance, and after that we give them a loan to start businesses. So this is something is helping and improve its work. And believe me, we started in Yemen doing something what we call taking people from welfare to microfinance. So this is something we did it how youth taking them from being receiving welfare. We open account for them because, as you know, nobody open account for somebody who just receiving money as a welfare. So we started doing it with the Ministry of Social in Yemen, and we opened saving for them. What we did, we told them, if you put saving, by the way, they make 16% return. We give them loan for 14%. If they just get a loan from us and put the money in the saving, they make 2%. Why doing this? Because this is our responsibility for that group of people to have them within 3 years graduated out of welfare and being able to get microfinance.
That's tremendous. And I think what others may be interested too is the way that you're connecting or layering not only the services, but connecting the actors from government to microfinance actors. I wanted to give Ignacio an opportunity to respond to this too. And I think there's a lot here that we can dig into. And then Jared, we got a question from the audience. So after Ignacio goes, I wanted to let you take on the question of what are some incentives that microfinance institutions can use to help increase the uptake? You had mentioned that in your initial comments about that being one of the challenges. So first, Ignacio, on Nasser's comments just now.
Thank you, Jesse. One of the things that caught my attention was that saving might be better than credit when starting a new business, and I think I fully agree with what Nasser just said. One of the experiences that we have, one of the case studies is from Al-Khatani. We remember that one of the lessons learned that they shared with the network was basically that most of the youth that started with the training in Al-Khatani, after completing the training, many of them actually chose to focus on building their savings and to take additional time to further prepare before to launch their business. And it was definitely a positive outcome, not only for the MFI, but also for the client, because it actually helped to mitigate the social and financial risk. And I think in the end, it would lead to a more stable clients and, of course, better results over the long term.
Thanks, Ignacio. The importance of starting with savings and really building assets is something that the campaign is very interested in exploring. Our last summit in Mexico had several sessions where we dug into that a little bit, so I'm glad to see that recurring here. Jared, on that question of incentives, we got that one from Luis, who wanted to know what are some ways that we can help drive attention or drive active savers in some of these accounts among children and youth.
Well, I think we've seen, one way we might be looking at a matched savings scheme. If they're looking at initial deposits, an institution is able to sort of get some initial sort of momentum behind some of the account uptake by matching a proportion of the savings that are deposited as a bit of a further of a financial incentive for young people, or even looking at different rewards when young people are able to achieve a certain savings target. So say if it's a certain number of deposits or a particular savings balance that the young person is be trying to achieve, looking at different rewards that can be built in along those based on those sort of targets when they are achieved. I think looking at some of the non-financial services, and this is something I also wanted to address, and at CYFI we see a real importance of combining some of the financial services with an educational component. Nasser was certainly addressing the importance of sort of the business training as well. And when we look at sort of an economic, our whole theory around economic citizenship, really sees an educational component that combines financial literacy training with sort of some of the social, basic health and basic human rights learnings, as well as entrepreneurship and some basic business management skills for young people. And I think those extra sort of skills to sustain a livelihood for oneself or to really build their employability can be an additional real incentive for young people to get involved with the financial service provider and take on these services. Now, of course, on the flip side, they do present a bit of a whole set of other cost implications to the financial service provider, and I think that we can look at some of the best different delivery models and Ignacio, maybe you'd like to take over from here on that.
Yeah, I just want to contribute with something. Jesse was talking about one of the challenges, of course, is how to do with the dormancy of the accounts. And one of the examples that we have from the network as well is the case of AutoPem in the Dominican Republic. They, after 3-4 years actually of launching the program, they were taking over the numbers, and they actually found out that almost 50% of the accounts that were opened by the parents and were controlled by the parents actually lost all the money, all the deposits through dormancy fees. But only 10% of the accounts that were opened by the youth and controlled by the youth lost their deposit through dormancy fees. So this is basically another incentive is making sure that the kids can take over the financial future, and by giving, of course, according to the regulation in place, giving them the possibility to control their own finances. So this is for deposit and withdrawals.
Definitely.
Great. And with that, I wanted to use that as a moment to Ignacio, allow you to talk a little bit about the school bank program and give you a chance to talk about that. And then I want to get back to Nasser about the non-financial services side that Jared, you had alluded to. So Ignacio, you first on school banks.
Yes, thank you, Jesse. I'm going to explain it in a nutshell. I want everyone here to get really interested so they can ask me more questions via email. A school bank, it's not a new concept. It has been there for over 100 years, but still there's not a recipe for success. We have different examples where there is a bank that adopts a school, so they have a branch in the school. We have the example of the bank that sends a bank teller to the schools once a week so they can collect the funds. We also have the examples where the bank enables an office within the bank for only children and youth to do the operations. Now, why school bank is coming back and why we're pushing so hard with this project is basically because it is our star project. A school bank looks or aims at combining both financial education with a practical tool, which is a financial inclusion aspect, which would be the savings account. As I think many of you know already, most of the investigation, most of the research actually shows that children and youth will get the most benefit of the financial education when it's actually implemented or offered in tandem with the practical tool, which would be the savings account. So what we're doing with School Bank is we, first of all, we make sure there is a working group in the country. The working group is normally formed with a financial services provider, which will actually help to open the accounts and support them with the ongoing transactions. As for the financial education component, we first take a look of whether there is a financial education curricula at a national level in place, and if that's the case, it's going to be way more easier. And if that's not the case, then Child Finance looks to partner with a local organization delivering the financial education. So in combination with the financial services provider, we can provide a school bank to a certain school. So there are different models for the school bank. We don't necessarily recommend one model over the other. We do believe that the model that applies to the country depends mostly on the situation of, well, the local context of the country, but also on the possibilities of the financial institution and also of the schools. But yeah, the idea is, again, to make sure that those kids that are already having financial education, that have an opportunity to have a savings account, and if they don't have not the account or the financial education program, then we can do it in a holistic way and bring both elements with one project. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Ignacio. That's really helpful. I wanted to then turn back to Nasser. Two things, actually, I want to see if we can try to address. The first is the importance and the role of non-financial services. And in combination with that, we got a great question here from the audience, from Marissa, about how do these services help young people establish credible reputation that they can leverage in a different context? And so, Nasser, in terms of the training and some of the other non-financial services, can you talk a little bit about how these services help participants get maybe better loans or build out their businesses and kind of have greater chances for success?
Yeah, actually what we do for non-financial services, we always depend on third party. we started creating what we call social business for training and doing non-financial services. We even invest in that area. For example, I'll give you an example in Yemen. We created an institute to train that young people just independently from our bank because, as you know, we do want to mix non-financial services with financial services. And some of private sector is putting a little money in it. So we create almost 4 classrooms. And we do have different kind of products. We could train people whatever they want in their life. But if you have a bachelor's degree, you are entitled to spending 1 day in our institute and using all the 8 classrooms, starting from handicraft, training, fixing a mobile, etc. If you spend that day, you just are entitled of getting your first loan from our bank, which is $50. We don't even ask him or ask her what they should do with it. So by that one, and believe me, 90% of engineering come in and spend 1 day, they get $50 and go and work with young people for mobile banking. So they just have all the tool and accessory, and they start their own business. Believe me, with the 50 to 100, those people have no job, just knowing how to open the mobile, to help it, to fix it, and so on. And they start their own businesses. As well as what we do, we develop our software. So having people, first of all, we don't even provide people with having any training or something before they get first loan. But when we give them the first loan, we do have some, four criteria to help that people to be access to non-financial services. So if you are, like people right now saying, we'll make an interview to find an entrepreneur and train them, etc. No, we develop this as in a way, if you have access to loan with us, and you do have 2 loans and you pay in time, if your revenue is increasing, double within 2 years, if you already create more job opportunity, if you are informal, will help you. And before that, you have to have access to micro-insurance. In that area, we give them, because as you know, we create what we call social business as Arab Open University. This is an institute belonging to AGFUND. So you are entitled of getting a training for 1 week in our partner organization to help them how to go from micro to small. And this is automatically, if they register and have access to that 1 week and met all the pre-requirement, he gives a small loan, not just micro loan, small loan. So we gradually with it. This model has been developed last year. We implemented in Jordan. Last year, we did 100 small because you know that we have access to 100,000 microcredit. But last year, we created 100 100 small company. This year we created 400. Our target to create 1,000 small company every year. So imagine in Jordan alone, if 8 MFIs using our tool to graduate from micro to small and have access to 1 week training, that they could create 8,000 small company. Imagine, because Arab region, as you all know, when it's come to SMEs, we are behind. One of the reasons, because the microfinance and financial inclusion is behind as well. So we believe in AGFUND. Without having financial inclusion as well as third-party institute give you non-financial services together, we will not create just something good for the youth to be having small business and medium.
So the importance of partnerships there, particularly with the third parties, that's really powerful and an example that's been seen as very effective all over the world. Staying with you for just a moment, Nasser, we got a question from Miranda that talks about, what about situations where deposits are not allowed to be taken by MFIs in certain countries? Knowing that, we've talked with Sci-Fi and AgFund, and both of you agree with the importance of working on a savings-led approach, but what are some other products that could be bundled together for youth inclusion in cases where savings is not something that the MFI can do?
Yeah, actually, this is a good question because, we have 9 banks in Arab region and 1 in Sierra Leone. 4 out of them have, access, they could do saving. The other 5, they cannot do saving. And this is one of the difficulty. Why now we're talking to all the central banks, you have to improve your legal environment to do financial inclusion and saving. What we're doing now, we're talking to, and it's nothing easy. We're talking to convince some of the commercial bank to do saving or from post office. But believe me, we are not until now, we haven't even been successfully having, commercial bank doing downscale their services to the micro, as well as we couldn't be able often to do it with the post office as well. Because the way we're thinking about saving, because, in Yemen, when we have that system, we encourage people to save, and sometimes we give them more than interest more than if they get a loan. Because as you know, when we do our loan, we encourage them, if you put saving with us, 20% of your money, you make, if you're giving your loan for 10%, you get saving 12%. So we encourage them to could even make money out of us if they get 20%. This is, it's been having difficulty for us to do saving in a country is not allowed. This is one of the challenges we're facing.
Yeah, and I think that gets a lot back to the question of incentives as well, making sure that persons who are working to build their savings really do see the value of doing so. I wanted to get back to Ignacio. One question we got was talking about actually the role of savings groups as a place to build savings before accessing other products. I wanted to actually take this question and combine it actually with the school bank question too. Are there instances where you're seeing savings groups and child finance products have any kind of cohesion or synergistic effects, particularly maybe in places where schools are not well built up in terms of the infrastructure, or it's hard to ensure that children are staying in schools in order to be able to use this as a delivery channel for a savings account? Are savings groups something that Child and Youth Finance has on its horizon?
That is a great question, Jesse. Actually, as a matter of fact, one of the countries where we found out that the saving groups work really well in offering these financial services is actually in the Philippines. The Philippines, there was a case study with NATCO and Al-Khatani where basically through the savings clubs, there was the offering of the savings account after they passed the basic training. Of course, in the case of the Philippines, the regulation was in favor because children above the age of 8 years old can actually manage their own banking accounts.
Great. Okay, that's very helpful. So, Ignacio, tell us about. I'm interested in digging a little bit in on some of the curricula that you talked about on the educational side. We did get a question from Penny. What is the topics that are included in the eco-citizenship curriculum?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to let Jared to respond to that.
Sure. I think when we look at economic citizenship education, it's the ECE framework that we've developed through a global working group on education, including UNICEF and OECD and UNESCO and a number of leading international NGOs like Plan International and Aflatoon and World Vision and Junior Achievement. We really look at, and I try to look at the 3 components of sort of financial literacy, social education, and then sort of livelihoods education. And under financial literacy, here we really look at personal spending and saving and personal budgeting, understanding financial service providers and what kinds of products and services that they offer, and what having people be able to compare and contrast different microfinance institutions or FSPs that are working in their community, and just sort of seeing just the role of finance both in their own lives and then of course within their communities. That social component we see as being very, very important to sort of root young people sort of in starting off when they see sort of the social impact of their financial decisions, not only just within their own lives and the lives of their family, but also in their community, really starting with a basic sense of rights and responsibilities for young people, and what does it mean to be a financially responsible citizen and a good citizen. And also just some looking at some basic health and basic human rights and citizenship type topics that can be complementary to some of the financial aspects. Finally, of course, with the livelihoods and entrepreneurship here, we talked about just some really early on entrepreneurial experiences, and we really see a lot of the learning and the value that can come when young people are exposed to running enterprises even within schools, sort of group collective enterprises with their school classmates, and some of how that's building very practical skills in managing money and creating a plan and carrying it out, and dealing with customers, and really just sort of learning the ins and outs of businesses. Even though if young people don't go on to start their own businesses or become their own entrepreneurs, that these are sort of foundational life skills that will certainly carry them forward. I guess when the other side of the livelihoods dimension being more of the more practical, putting together a business plan, seeking what do I need to finance this plan, what do I really need to carry this business idea to the next level. And I think we see these three components to really building that very much that holistic framework for economic citizenship education.
Yeah. If I can just add something on a practical level in terms of the school bank, different pilots that we've been launching. If we take the example of Colombia, for example, for Colombia, there was a national strategy for financial education, and Challenged Finance International support the Ministry of Education in making an assessment of this curricula, the national curricula. So in the case of Colombia, it was pretty simple to have the financial education component or the EC component in place, while there are other cases, for example, in India, where we're actually launching a school bank pilot there. Well, in the case of India, because there was no national curriculum for financial education, the work of Challenged Finance International was first connecting or partnering with an NGO in the country delivering financial education, doing an assessment of that curriculum, and also support with the training of the teachers. And the last case study that we have is the case of Mexico, where basically, Al-Khatani does have a financial education program in place in Spanish, but it needed to be adjusted to the local context of Mexico. So this is sort of the way we actually make adjustments to the financial education program, if it's in place, and if it's not in place, we support with the training of the teachers or with the content.
That's great. And what I would mention is that our blog, 100millionideas.org, will be a place where all those who are listening can access our resources. The presentations today will include a link to the video. And what I'll do, Ignacio, is ask you if you could send us a few of the case studies, and we can have people be able to access those on your website from a link from that blog. I do want to remind you, we've gotten some great questions here. I encourage you to keep sending them. Try to stump our panelists here. We've got some really interesting innovations going on about serving children and youth, some really good questions about some of the issues that institutions come up against in terms of regulation, where they're not allowed to take savings, some incentives questions. Keep them coming. I wanted to turn the topic just a little bit. One of the other things that Sci-Fi has done recently is develop some guidelines for product development, and I think that could be particularly interesting to the practitioners in the audience. What I want to do is ask Jared and Ignacio to tell us a little bit about what the guidelines can do for us, and then I'm going to kind of give a surprise question to Nasser in a way and ask him, from a network standpoint, what does he see people in the network being able to, what does he see for the utility of these guidelines? How can they help some of the AGFUND banks really work to perfect some of the tremendous products that they've done? So while he's thinking about that answer, I'll turn to you, Ignacio and Jared, and just ask you, give us a background of what the guidelines are and how they can be used when you're a practitioner.
Right. Thank you, Jesse. Very briefly, I'm glad you mentioned the product development guide. We'll be glad to share with all the participants. Well, the product development guide has to be seen as a result of an evolution for Challenge Youth Finance International. There was a consulting group since the very, I think, 2011, where we're discussing about, well, when looking about a banking product, what are the principles that should be taken, that we should take into consideration. So from, of course, availability and accessibility of the product to, well, the product needs to have a positive financial incentive, there must be a financial education component in place, et cetera, et cetera. And then after the banking principles, well, there was this idea of taking a look at the financial industry, and together with UNICEF, we created this document called Beyond the Piggy Bank. And the idea of this document was taking a look at the different banks offering Challenge Youth-friendly products, or at least they said it's Challenge Youth-friendly products, and taking a look at those products and seeing whether or not they were compliant with the children's rights and also with UNICEF business principles. But after that, there was a lot of attention from our stakeholders in terms of, okay, well, if we would like to understand better the business case and how to develop a product for children and youth from scratch, what should be taken, what are the different elements of how do we proceed from here? And then this was a great collaboration that we had with Mastercard. The name of the guide is Banking a New Generation, Developing Responsible Retail Banking Products for Children and Youth. And it's also available online. The guide is divided into 3 chapters. The first chapter takes a look into the business case mainly. So, well, understanding that, well, when you decide to develop a product for children and youth, you need to take a look into the midterm and the long term. But all the different elements about the business case are written on chapter 1. Then chapter 2 takes a look at the different needs when developing a product for children and youth, what are the necessary steps to take. And the third chapter is a compilation of a few case studies where we are profiling, featuring a few accounts that, in our belief, are Challenge Youth friendly. So, yeah, that's in a nutshell.
If I could also just add to that, I think it's important to, as a complement to the banking principles that has come out through the CYFI network. We know it's very important, I think, for institutions, microfinance institutions specifically, who are looking to get involved in youth financial services, to really look at digging into we've talked about the business case already on this webinar, and really look into the different factors that can influence some of the different cost implications and profitability drivers within the business case framework. And CGAP has done a lot of work in this area, looking also at the Youth Save Consortium. There'll be a publication coming out next month through the European Microfinance Platform, in which CYFI has been involved in this publication. But really just look at the different regulatory environment, the institutional strength, the delivery model that institutions need to look at for offering the non-financial services. If they want to look at delivering this within-house, with their own staff, or within a different department within the institution, or if they want to contract those services out entirely. There's obviously cost implications for these decisions, but from our side, even at CYFI, I think we believe, and this comes out also in the Banking New Generation, when we're looking at maintaining the child friendliness of the service delivery, we feel it is very important to look at sort of these linked models where you do have the financial institution taking care of the financial services, and really allowing the educational programs and services to be delivered by youth-serving organizations or schools who have really expertise in these educational components. It also kind of allows this issue of a bit of a blurry line sometimes when you do have financial service providers staff offering financial literacy advice to young people, because it can be a bit confused sometimes with some marketing objectives on the behalf of the financial institution. So we really do argue for that bit of a separation between the education services and the financial service providers.
Thanks, Jared. And I think that's a good point to make, too, about the not getting too much into marketing and really staying focused on the educational aspect. I want to mention we're about 5 minutes till. What we've done with previous e-workshops is allowed, because we have several great questions that have come in recently from our listeners, we allow for a little bit of leeway, we ask, from you, the listeners, to let us go a little over time. Of course, if you are obligated to jump off and onto other things, we understand, but we will be taking a few extra questions, going just a little bit past the hour. Wanted to turn to you, Nasser. In looking at guidelines like these, you have 9 banks in your network. What are the value of guidelines such as these to your banks and network members in developing products? Is this something that can be helpful to you as a practitioner?
Yeah, of course, guideline is very important. As you know, AGFUND, there is 3 phases, of guidelines. AGFUND is not just opening a bank. You have to understand that AGFUND opened a bank. They started leading the industry in each country. Our ultimate goal, not to just do and open a bank and provide services. Our ultimate goal to create a legal environment for any country. For example, in Yemen, when we started, we have to create the national team of microfinance. We help them to create a legal environment. And then we have to have our own team who will be able to do 5-year business plan, do action plan, and do all the, policy and procedure. Because as you know, what we do all the time, we have just two, the CEO or the project manager who come from the industry. The rest of all of our employees in 9 banks get to come from poor family. So as you know, microfinance is support of poor family. If we believe that if we give loan to anybody who poor, he could create a business or do, or survive. So we believe that, poor people who has access to education, if you just give them 2 months, he could be an officer. So one of our strong guidelines, and this is one of our models we even presented in the Microcredit Summit in Mexico, how can we create a leader among the poor? And this is one of the area, the team or the guideline, create leader among the community itself. And we believe one of the important guidelines to choose people who believe and know very well the area. Because as you know, creating the product, because as you know, if you have a problem, you just create a product or financial product to solve the problem. Because each country or each village have certain kind of developing their own, products need. So in AGFUND, the way we do and guideline them to have them access to be creative. So believe me, most of our great idea come from young people have just 1 year experience. That is where they create a new product. So we encourage them to be, creative. So because looking at for the networking right now, so a young guy or woman in Yemen could sell a product to a young one in Jordan through our bank's networking. Because right now we're working for a letter of credit between our banks. Nobody even starts thinking that all these people could do a letter of credit. So now we are working to develop this. But we already have some of our clients in Yemen selling product to our client in Jordan and etc. Because I remember when I was in Bahrain, I have those people asking, I'm a trader. I buy stuff from Dubai, but I need to buy it from Syria. But I have no access. I said, you have no problem. We call the officer in Syria. So they're working with each other. So what I believe, what we have done perfectly in our model, that we started creating something, creating leaders, creating a bank from scratch. Because one of the idea to create that product facing their need. And believe me, sometimes we just look at what financial system is doing, and we do the opposite, and it's work. Because financial system not welcoming anything for the poor people. And I remember one day we do have a group of women in Yemen. We have them, getting just access to finance while they are in prison. We train them by saving, going back to their family.
Thanks, Nasser. And this is really a great example of the breadth of services offered by AGFUND, and I think it's important to see how a network that's done this so long has developed its own set of guidelines and is using those to guide its further development. I wanted to turn to some incoming questions in our last few minutes here. We got a great question. I'm going to combine it, actually, two of these. One, on the one hand, child protection. So the question really is, what child protection issues do you have to consider when engaging with young people? And I think this is very important because we are working with a group that may have some unique vulnerabilities in terms of financial inclusion. And with that, sort of on the other side, once you are working with them, how do you ensure that marginalized groups such as young girls are able to access financial products? And let me start with Jared and then come back to you, Nasser, on this question.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, there we are. Microphone back on. I think this is a great question, and this is something that CYFI and in the product development guide that Ignacio mentioned earlier, just really looking at. I think we've touched on the marketing issue and ensuring that so you do have education authorities and youth-serving organizations, NGOs who have expertise in working with children, youth, and vulnerable groups like this who are involved in sort of the program design, the delivery of the education, to ensure that it is sort of separate from that marketing objectives and motivations on behalf of the financial service providers. I think there's also some issues around the data protection stuff, that when we're collecting a lot of the data from different financial service providers, ensuring that data is safe and it's not being used for again some very sort of negative connotations and negative opportunities there to reach out to young people for the wrong reasons. Regarding the safe space question, I think within our network we see two organizations that are really sort of leading the charge in terms of really creating safe spaces for girls to meet together, save in small savings groups, and also just get exposed to issues around financial literacy, sexual and reproductive health. And these organizations would be the Population Council and some of their really leading work that they've done in Kenya and in Zambia, where they've been able to even connect these savings groups with formal finance. And then, of course, BRAC in Bangladesh, really doing a great job in just connecting with some of these local civil society organizations to provide young girls with a safe space to meet and discuss these important issues to them, as well as really have that practical experience of really starting to see their savings and their assets build.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to what you were saying, Jesse, actually. A few years ago, the UNCDF, together with the SMART campaign and Challenging Finance International, there was the client protection principles were adapted, and they were adapted because of a reason specifically. We do understand the client protection principles. They should be inclusive to everyone, independent of gender, economic status, ethnicity, or age. But it is also true that some of the clients are more vulnerable than others, and this is the case of youth for two reasons. The first one is because the financial services providers, they have little experience when serving youth, and this leads to misconceptions about how to serve youth. But the second reason is because also youth have little experience using financial services, and then they have to trust adults to help them make the decisions about the money and the services they use. So because of these two reasons, there was an effort from UNCDF to make an adaptation of the client protection principles developed by the SMARTS campaign.
Thanks. So Nasser, a similar question then. What are some of the ways that the AGFUND network in delivering its products and services has taken child protection into account for those services?
Yeah, actually, we try, and when we design the product, for example, for child saving and protection, When we have the saving, we always encourage parents not to use the saving for any other purpose for the children. We encourage them. For example, we encourage them, to save some money for microinsurance, for example, use it next for education, etc. And make sure if their parents, by the way, right now, if the parents get their first loan by guarantee of the child saving, whatever money they take it should be protecting the child. For example, they are, not to allow child to work before, getting the age of allowing to work. Second, not to touch the savings of the child except for health or insurance or education, or leave it for him or her until became. So we always protect the savings of the child, book a lot of condition to serve and help the child himself. So this is the way we trying to make this is work for them. It's not easy, because what we do, as we said, we always working with a lot of NGOs around us, because I like when our colleague talking about social bank. We do what we call NGO banks. So that NGO banks got to have a prerequisite to deal with them or give client to to give loan to their client. They have to be child protection, not to have in that area, for example, drugs, etc. There is a lot of certain, area we touch on when we talk to the community to protect child, because today we had a meeting in Cairo because we're trying to protect the street children. And we're trying right now, how can we design saving for that street children? And please, if any of our colleagues have been done anything with the street children, please give us, your experience in that area, because this is how we can protect our children.
Perfect, and a great segue too to what I was going to ask next about fostering some collaboration. So we do invite those who are listening, if you have questions or you have ideas that you'd like to share with our presenters here, please do contact them. You can reach them through the Microcredit Summit campaign at mycommitment@microcreditsummit.org, and we'll be sure to forward that on to our presenters. I think they'd be very interested to hear your thoughts as well. We are seeing some more questions come in. One that I wanted to get to was a question about programs in Brazil, and I think this one would be good for you at Sci-Fi there. Have you had any experience in Brazil or interest with it? A similar question which referenced your work with AGFUND. Are there other partners that are getting involved in that area in working with young people in the Latin America region? And Jared, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, we're back. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, it's a good question. There is a big presence in Latin America. For the specific case of Brazil, right now we have Sofia Ortega, our regional coordinator for Latin America and the Caribbean, celebrating Global Money Week. This year, the national government combined their Money Week with the Global Money Week. So actually, now Global Money Week is part of the national strategy for financial education. When it comes to financial inclusion, in the case of Brazil, it has been challenging to sell the business case, and this is mainly because of regulatory challenges. One of the challenges is that children cannot operate their accounts independently until they are the age of 18. For most of the banks, there is no business case because we're talking about micro savings, so it's not sustainable for banks to have that. So let's just say that in financial education, yes, there is a lot of efforts going on. There is a national curriculum in place being pushed by the AEF, if I'm not mistaken. But for financial inclusion, there is still many challenges to achieve challenging financial inclusion in the case of Brazil.
Great. So we've got about 5 minutes in our extended time here, and then we're going to need to stop. And we do appreciate everyone's indulgence in letting us go a little past the hour. We have received some other questions. What I'm going to do is actually ask you, continue sending those. Send them to mycommitment@microcreditsummit.org. We're going to post those on the blog that will cover this session, and invite our presenters here today to see if there's any of those that they want to answer in the time between now and when that blog goes up. That blog should appear with the recording of this session. It'll also include links to any of the resources that my colleagues have been sending through on the webinar platform, as well as maybe a few others that our presenters think of between now and then. You should see that sometime mid-next week. So that'll be a great resource for you on this session. In closing, what I wanted to do is ask one question from Nasser, and then the same question from Jared and Ignacio. And that is how to get engaged question. So we've talked about child and youth products. We've heard a lot about what's working well, what are some of the challenges that you face, and ways that you work to overcome those. Nasser, the question would be, for those who are listening, who have an interest in becoming involved with some of the work that you're doing in the region there, what is your advice to them? What are some final thoughts that you would give them about how to become a partner or another actor who's taking very seriously this effort to reach out to children and youth? What is your advice to them?
Yeah. Actually, as you know, our model is just basically we need to create or use this initiative in one example in each country. If your country already have a bank of AGFUND, you could even contact the bank and use our model manual. We always have training. You could even have partnership with us if you're working with in that area. If you have no banks for AGFUND, so what we do, we encourage you that you bring some business people, because as you know, we always do our bank as a social business with a group of business people from that country. And if the country have allowed to open the bank, because we are not encouraging those days to open any bank unless if they give us financial inclusion, full-fledged bank. Because at the beginning, we encourage the government to change their regulation in order to open our bank. We make our requirement tougher now after 9 banks. We said a country without having that regularity. So we encourage you to know about the initiative. Please, if you think there is any advice, we could even use it, or if you think there is anything you could benefit from us, we have it in the website. We could even send you all manuals. If you could have, if you have a training, you could come and attend.
That's great. So an open opportunity, an open invitation to partner with AGFUND and learn from their experiences, as well as
and let me add for this, because as I'd like to announce right now, we're working too closely right now with the Microcredit Summit to hold the regional in the Arab region, Africa, and then this is one of the area we right now thinking which country we will be choosing between Microcredit Summit and AGFUND. Please, if you have any advice or recommendation, we welcome it.
Thanks, Nasser. And so what we'll do also is make available on the blog ways to contact AGFUND about the materials they mentioned, and we do want to point out the open invitation to send advice too, and I think that's important and very good to consider learning a two-way street there. Thank you, Nasser. Jared, same question. In looking at the way forward, what is advice that you have for getting started for those who may not yet have step 1 accomplished, but may have some interest?
Yes. I would like to begin by answering that. I think, well, from Child Youth Finance International point of view, we're really happy to share all the different resources and publications that we have available in terms of the business case and the different steps on how to develop a product for children and youth. There is also information directly, specifically for microfinance institutions. So there is, just let us know. very glad to share that. But for now, I think there are 7 recommendations that I really want to share with all the audience. This is for those of you interested in delivering products or services for children and youth. We do recommend you to design the products that are appropriate to youth-specific needs, so include youth not only in the market research but also in the product development. Ensure the commitment and the training and the monitoring of the staff. Marketing activities directed to youth. For those institutions that do not have the resources, there are other activities. There are below-the-line marketing activities where basically the institution goes to the rural communities or goes to youth to the different schools, to the churches, to the malls, and then do the marketing there. Include financial literacy training, specially designed for youth. Build incentives to guide positive youth financial behavior. This is a savings club, entrepreneurship lessons. Another recommendation is engage the families, communities, and external partner organizations. And the 7th is work towards sustainability of your youth programs from the very beginning. I do believe, just to wrap it up, is that MFIs do have the potential to ensure that this increasing youth population is seen as an opportunity and not as a threat. We do believe that if we focus on this segment, we design innovative products that meet their needs, and we also share these successful models within our network, then the microfinance sector will be able to put these resources and the opportunity into the hands of the next generation. Thank you.
And I think that's
go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, we believe very strongly that youth is not a problem of serving youth. It's really an opportunity to serve young people, building the next generation of financial service clients, and these are going to be really the economic citizens and the leaders of tomorrow. We really do want to invest wholeheartedly, and I think that's where we feel CYFI's role, even with the Microcredit Summit, why we really felt this joint campaign was important to really draw further attention to this issue, drawing more investment and more resource into this area. It is the bottom line. It is something for microfinance institutions not to take on lightly, as we talked about some of the business case discussions and implications there. Even with startup grants to get the ball rolling to offset some of the costs, you are looking at a few more years before we are going to be able to balance the books and have these things as a sustainable product lines. And this is something that the financial institutions need to see this as a long-term investment, a very important long-term investment, but one that nevertheless does require a long-term view on this issue. But from CYFI, we mentioned our tools, Ignacio, and we're very happy to continue through our network of experts trying to connect any financial service provider that's interested in further work in this area with product development services or even curriculum development services for the non-financial service side. I would also like to just shout out to some of the other people within our network who are also working very hard and have tool guides that they have developed. The SEEP network, the European Microfinance Platform, as we've mentioned, publications that are forthcoming in the next couple of months. Making Sense International, Women's World Banking, MEDA, Youth Start, UNCDF's Youth Start campaign have all put out some fantastic publications to really help further this industry. And I think for us at CYFI, we're just very, very happy to see more and more attention being driven to this topic, because we see it as something of real importance to the microfinance sector.
Thank you, Jared, and I want to say thank you to all of our speakers. We will be posting all of these resources, links to the resources that you've heard about today on our blog. Again, that should appear mid-next week. It'll also include a recording of our session. I want to mention, too, that the summit coming up in Q4 of this year, we are going to be moving, as was mentioned, towards the Africa and Middle East region. We have an RFP, a request for proposals for workshops. We're looking to have you be a voice in developing the agenda for the summit, and we invite you to check out a link that we will post on the blog to be able to submit a proposal for a workshop. So if something here has sparked your interest and you want to develop a workshop on it or any other topic related to what you'll see in the information presented in the workshop proposal, we invite you to do so. I want to mention, too, that Jared rattled off a really outstanding list of allies that are working within the CYFI network. Many of those have made campaign commitments, and what I want to underscore is the joint commitment between CYFI and the Microcredit Summit campaign. Highlight that AGFUND is also a commitment maker, and invite you to, if you've become inspired by what you've heard today, if you've decided that this is something you want to reach out to CYFI or AGFUND about, we invite you to do so, and once you're ready to take that first step, as Jared mentioned, it has to be a considered, thoughtful step and something you're ready to commit to. CYFI and the Microcredit Summit campaign are very eager to help raise awareness about that commitment that you're making, and doing that on both our platforms and throughout both of our networks. So we hope that's something you'll consider and taking a step towards being a leader in serving children and youth and making sure that full financial inclusion truly is full financial inclusion. So with that, I want to say thank you for joining us. We hope you'll join us again. We're looking towards April for our next Commitment to E workshop, which will focus on agricultural value chains and risk reduction. And we'll be including the ILO and the FAO, who are both commitment makers from this past year. It should be a very interesting conversation about some of the practical applications of research that they've been developing recently. Once again, please continue to send your questions to mycommitment@microcreditsummit.org. We'll be posting questions we didn't get to on our blog and inviting our presenters to take a stab at those. Thank you again to all of our speakers, and thank you to our listeners, and we hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
It was a great webinar.